There's always been a mystery about the drum.
Okay. Hi.
Yeah.
Welcome to all of you. I'm Cynthia Amnéus. I'm the Chief Curator and Curator of Textiles and Fashion Arts here at the museum. I worked with Jason, who was our guest curator for the culture, the hip-hop and contemporary art in the 21st century, and I hope we've had a chance to see the exhibition. But I was the person, along with Susan Hudson, our Director of Exhibitions and Collections, who were Jason's main points of contact here at the museum. So I'll introduce Jason, who is 2 chairs to my left at this point. Jason Rawls has his doctorate in education and is one of the leading figures in the study of hip-hop and an advocate for education about this genre. As I mentioned earlier, he guest curated the exhibition, The Culture, and he is an assistant professor in the Department of African American and African Studies and the School of Music at The Ohio State University. Dr. Rawls is also known for his music production work with artists like Mos Def and the Beastie Boys, to name a few, and as a published author and DJ known as J. Rawls in that capacity. Jason is leading the team that is creating a hip-hop studies program at OSU. So,
I'm up.
Take it away.
What's up, y'all? Oh, you gonna stop it? Look, so I'm not formal at all. How y'all feeling? So listen, we are going to have a good time tonight. What we're going to do is really interact with you. Dibbs and I are going to nerd out a little bit. Oh, nice pictures. Good job, Haley. We're going to nerd out a little bit, but we're going to try to rein ourselves in. Billy's going to help us do that. So I really want to just break this down for you really quickly so it makes sense, because Billy said, make it make sense, and I got you. So first, let me introduce Billy from Shake It Records. Yeah, give him a hand. So, as guest curator, I told Cynthia, I told Cameron, I told the whole gang, if we're going to do this, it's going to be hip-hop. And you're going to have real hip-hop here at the museum. And so that's what you have. And what you see right here, this is the genesis of hip-hop, okay? Hip-hop started with the DJ. Everybody say DJ. Hip-hop started with the DJ. Say, hip-hop started with the DJ. See, you just learned an interesting fact. Now, let me teach you something else. There are 4 main elements to hip-hop, okay? The first and main one, and I guess I'm a little biased, is the DJ. So DJing is an element. Number 2 is what we call in the culture, we call it b-boying. You guys call it breakdancing, right? Because the media took it upon themselves to change the name, right? Oh, wow, that's beautiful, right? And so DJing, breakdancing, or b-boying. The other one is graffiti, all right? And the last one, last but least, no, I'm being mean, but rapping or emceeing. And that's the one you all know. There you go. But here's the thing about it. People forget. When you think of hip-hop or you think of rap, people only think of the music. And that's a common mistake. Hip hop is a culture. Everybody say culture. Hip hop is an entire culture. And that's why upstairs, hopefully you've seen it, it's called the culture. See how I made it connect for you? What I want to do is introduce one of my friends, and somebody I've known a long time. But everybody please give a round of applause for my brother, Mr. Dibbs. Let me tell you, see the thing, and if you haven't done your research, that's okay. I'm just going to briefly tell you, Dibbs is not a local DJ who just DJs or something like that. Mr. Dibbs is an internationally renowned, and when I say international, I mean around the globe. He's renowned as one of the best DJs and turntablists, and he's from right here in Cincinnati. So we got to make sure that we give him his flowers, and I always give him his flowers, and he says, oh, come on, Rawls, chill. But he deserves them. He's one of the best, and he just did a quick 30-second demo, and that's not anything compared to what he really can do. And not to mention, he's one of the founding members of the Scribble Jam Festival. So, and if you haven't heard of that, you'll hear that more. Cool? All right. So I think I mentioned it. We're going to talk today, I'm going to jump into the conversation, but we're going to talk today about something that's very near and very dear to our hearts. But the whole thing that started hip-hop. So you got to imagine, we take it back to 1970s South Bronx, New York. All right? All right? Now, you have people who are, they don't have the same resources as some other people. Let's put it like that, right?
They got no garage.
There you go. They got no garage, right? They don't have a lot of money. They don't have money to get piano lessons, drum lessons, guitar lessons. But they still want to create. And they still have this hankering or this nudge. I want to do music. I want to do something. And so, you already know. Throw me one. They might have, give me this. They might have mom and dad's old records. Or they may have Uncle such and such, right? Uncle Pop Pop. They might have his extra turntable. And so it's like, how do we create with just this? And that's the essence of what hip hop is. It's creating something from nothing. Think about the B-boys. When you talk about B-boys when you talk about B-boys who didn't have anything to dance on because they couldn't afford dance lessons. But we're walking down an alley and we see old refrigerator cardboard. And we say, what can we do with that? Wait a minute, let's take it and put it on the concrete. Now we've got our DJ floor. Our dance floor. We can dance now, right? It's repurposing things. The genesis of hip hop is this idea of looking for what we call the break beat. Can you give them a quick example of the break beat? If I have 2 copies of this, I can keep that going. Think about that for a second. I don't have money for drum lessons. I don't have a band, right? I can't afford these things, but I've got 2 copies of this record, and I can keep that beat going. This is how hip-hop started. Is it starting to click for you a little bit? And so the whole idea becomes finding the most obscure, what we call break or break beat. That, what Dibbs just played, is a break beat. It's a part of the record where you don't hear any of the other music, but just the drums. This is what the pioneering DJs, when you think of DJ Kool Herc or Grandmaster Flash or Africa Bambaataa and some of these other DJs from the time, this is what they were hunting. And so this idea of what's called digging in the crates. Everybody say digging in the crates. This idea of digging in the crates comes about where people start to hunt and search for breakbeats, vinyl records. This is why vinyl records become so important to hip-hop culture. Questions? Did I lose anybody? Does it make sense? So that's why we have this here, because Dibbs and I have dedicated our lives. Can we say that, Laura? Is that? We have a serious problem because I go digging in the crates. Y'all remember that term, right? I go digging in the crates every week. Every week. Weekly. People are looking at you. Some of you are looking at me like, no, you don't. Some of you are like, they still make records? That's what Billy said. Some people say, yes. And so what happens is,
I go digging in it 8 hours a day, every day.
boom. And that's where I'm headed. So what happens is, people like Dibbs and I, we go to record stores like Shake It Records. Raise your hand if you heard of Shake It. There you go. Shake It Records, to look for the break beat, to look for that obscure find. We're hunting, we're digging in the crates, we're looking for that treasure. It's a treasure to us, right? So what I want to do is just have a quick conversation. First, I want to have Billy talk about it from his side. He works at the record store, so he's kind of he serves our fiendish behaviors. He's our dealer. And we come in and we say, what you got new? What you got? What you got? What you got? Right? And then what we want to do is kind of move on and help it relate to other things that are similar and what Cynthia does as far as museum curation, right? Because she digs in the crates too. You see the value in what she does when you walk around this museum. Is it clicking for you? Making sense? So we're going to let Billy chat a little bit. We're going to let Cynthia talk, and then Dibbs and I will probably nerd out a little bit. And by then, you'll get it. All right, Billy.
Thank you. To piggyback off what he was saying, to look for a breakbeat, that's a very, very specific thing. And we were discussing what kind of analogy we could use to explain that to somebody who may not know what that's like. I'm sure everybody, I hope everybody, has been to a bookstore or a library. And if you're going to go into a bookstore or a library and look for a book you might want to read, you're going to have a lot of indicators or flags you're going to look for. If you like mysteries, you're going to go to the mystery section. And if you like sci-fi, you're going to go to the sci-fi section. Maybe you know an author's name or a cool book cover, something that's going to give you an area to plunge into. Now imagine if you were looking for one sentence. You were looking for a single cool sentence. Then you wouldn't know where the hell to start with that if you're just looking for a sentence. So, and to make really clear, I do not do or cannot do what these two gentlemen do. But when you're looking for a break or a beat or a sample, which is a more colloquial term, almost nothing can be overlooked because it's not about something really precious or rare or something that screams cool to you. It can be a piece of garbage, 25-cent Lawrence Welk record that might have 11 seconds at the end of the 6th song on side 2 that is going to break your world open. So it's work. It's physical work because you're not pointing and clicking, are you? No, you're on your hands and knees and you're covered in grime and you're digging. I digged through that. I walked in this person's house on their porch and spent 7.5 hours looking through that. I left with 5 records. And it was really worth it. Man, it was really worth it. So yeah, it all begins with what Jay said, begins with this, because again, if you live in the Bronx, maybe you don't have a garage, and you're not going to start a garage band because you don't have those things in your life, but you have something else, so you're going to make something out of something else. And the other integral part of that is just the record. the record. It's a physical, tangible, tactile thing. It has a front and a back and an inside and an outside. And someone made a record cover for it, and someone wrote liner notes, and a lot of work went into it. And it's a thing that means a lot to me because I'm 54 years old and I've had 2 jobs. A couple of years out of high school, I worked at a pizza place. And then when I was 20, I got a job at a record store. And I'm still at a record store. And it ain't because the pay is great. I mean, it's good, it's fine, it's, but it keeps you coming back.
It's the love.
And I guess it's sort of analogous to whatever, if you collect tennis shoes or stamps or comic books or whatever. And that's the bigger question we were talking about is why does anybody collect anything? Why? Why do you collect anything? It just seems like such a hassle.
But we all do it. We all have something that we're into, that we collect. There's something about it that brings us a satisfaction. And so that's how you can relate. Because there's something that you do, that you collect, that it makes sense to you. It may not make sense to other people. You see Billy with, laying on all those records, and you're like, why would you ever do that? But I know why.
Fame and glory, man. Fame and glory. So that was the thing I wanted to introduce. That it's a hands-on art or a hands-on vocation in my respect. It's something I do all day long, every day, for decades. It's responsible for every major relationship in my life. The record. The record is the reason I met my wife. The record is the reason I live in the house I live and drive the car I drive, and everything in my entire life has revolved, no pun intended, around the record. Now, why I didn't pursue it in an artistic manner, mine is more of a vocation. People like me and people like them are linked forever. So yeah.
We need you. And so what I'd like to do is take that and compare it to what Cynthia does for the museum. And if you don't mind, talk about how you're driven and what you do in your collection and how you dig in the crates.
Sure. I love what I do. And I am lucky because fashion is relatively inexpensive, where paintings can cost $1 million or more. Fashion can cost $30,000 to $500, depending on where you go and where you look. And so I think the most I spent on a piece was $20,000 or $25,000.
For yourself?
No,
Oh.
no, for the museum.
Are you wearing it now?
No. I conversely have a small amount of funds with which I can buy or purchase objects, because people think that all of the fashion elements come out of Cincinnati closets. Well, if you look at the images that I've supplied to Haley, those things don't come out of Cincinnati closets. So during my time here at the museum, I've really concentrated on collecting 20th and 21st century pieces. We have good dresses in this area, but we don't have great dresses, and I want great pieces. So,
Can I ask what makes a great piece?
like that.
Why is that great to you? Just aesthetically?
It's a piece that that is about the designer, and it's about, their collections. So I think, yeah.
It's got a story.
Yeah, it's got a story. So this piece, for instance, that I presented to our acquisitions committee or collections committee. It has all the bells and whistles of a Gianni Versace, which it is, and it also has the descending bow motif, which is really popular in the 18th century. So I can show it a couple of different ways. I can show it as a Versace, but I can also show it as an 18th century, or as it relates to 18th century work. So my predecessor really concentrated on 18th and 19th century pieces, and he was working on exhibitions that he wanted to fill spaces for, but he was the first curator, and he started in 1986 to buy things for the collection. Before that, all things came out of Cincinnati closets. So he was the first person to buy things for the collection. So I'm really, concentrating on purchasing pieces that have a story, that have a designer behind them. And for instance, I purchased for the museum the first Gianni Versace, which you've seen. I purchased the first Jean-Paul Gaultier. I purchased the first Rei Kawakubo. I purchased the first Yohji Yamamoto for the collection. So definitely there are pieces that we don't have that we need. So I will say that curators speak to artists, they speak to dealers, they speak to other people. We purchase things at auction. We do all these things, and I want to give a shout out to all the curators, because they have built the collection that you are seeing in the museum. So it's not an easy thing. It requires building trust, building relationships over time, raising funds for purchases, and projects that we feel passionate about. So we do all those things.
All right.
That's amazing. Can you give Cynthia a round of applause for her? I got to share something with you before I go to Dibbs. I just want to share everything that she just said, the story, the designer, right? That's what we're doing. It's this idea of collecting, like what's important. And, you say, how much did she spend on a piece? So I haven't spent $25,000 on a record. But if the right record was there.
Not yet.
Right. So there's a record that I'm hunting that I've seen for $1,500. And if I see it again, I'm going to pay that. You know what it is because you have it and he won't sell it to me. But I'm looking for him to find it one day and call me and say, hey, I have that record. But
and
one
then
of the
give
most,
it to you for nothing.
Oh, man, don't do that. I'll pay you. Okay, I want to share with you one of the most expensive records I have. I have it here because I'm that much of a nerd. And I'm going to play it for you in a little bit. But it's a record called Impeach the President. Oh, y'all know that? This record has a super huge story behind it, right? The artist, right? And the artist that sampled it makes it important to me, right? The hip-hop artist that sampled it makes it important and makes it important to my story. Does that make sense? So what I want to do is I want to give Dibbs a chance to talk. You want me to play it? Play it. what I want him to talk about, like, and we don't want to nerd out too much because Haley's like, okay, she's our person to like calm us down. But when we do this, we can go for hours talking about records, vinyl, breaks, beats, forever. It's pretty clean, right? I paid, so you've all heard this before, you just didn't know what it was. Call me Milk. You see why that's important? Up for G, suckers that. See, do you see? Did we make the connection? Or if you know Nas, I know I can. Do what I wanna do. Diddle ding, ba diddle ding, ba diddle ding. Right? See, now I'm getting goosebumps. That's hip hop. That's hip hop. So we're hunting for that. We're going to his store and we're saying, what you got? And we're looking for those gems. So Dibbs and I are gonna take a few minutes. We're not gonna do too much. Y'all control us. Don't go for it. Oh yeah. Oh, anybody ever heard of James Brown? 1969, King Records, recorded here in Cincinnati, is one of the most famous break beats for hip hop, and now not only hip hop, music industry. Because in case you didn't know, pretty much every genre samples now, right?
It's
Taylor Swift samples. My little kid, she's looking at me like, what? Funky drummer, James Brown.
3, 4, get it. Go. Ain't it funky? Ain't it funky? Ain't it funky? Ain't it funky? 1, 2, 3, 4.
That might be in 1,000 songs.
Maybe 2,000.
Yeah.
Go for it. I mean, and so the thing about it is, when we're looking for that, so here's the thing, here's what you have to understand. The first time I heard that was probably Public Enemy, 1988, on their album, It Takes a Nation of a Million to Hold Us Back. Hold on before the amen, hold on. And that record, we heard that, and we were like, who is that? First of all, you gotta understand, 1988, did we have internet? So we couldn't just go and point and click and type it in and go find it real quick and easy. We had to go to every record store that we could find. We don't know who the art, we're not sure. I think it sounds like James Brown. You think it's James Brown? It might be James, I think that's James. Play it again. Okay, yep, that's James Brown. Okay, so now, and this is what we're doing in 1988, and we're hunting for it. And remember, there's no internet. Dibbs brought, because I have this too. This is what we used to do. We used to write down the breaks. We're looking for these records, so we're writing them down. Oh.
And we should note that it's
I just moved it out.
Jason, we should note it's Clyde Stubblefield for
Yes.
the folks.
That is Clyde on the drums,
It's
correct.
Clyde.
Yeah,
Who was James Brown's drummer?
yeah. And Jabo, yeah, it was two. Yeah, oh, okay, I'll talk about that next. Play this. You want me to play that first? All right, I'll be talking about so anybody ever heard of jungle music? We're going to talk about all of it because it's all important. Let's do straight out. Anybody ever heard of Straight Outta Compton, NWA? Of course you have. Now, if I had said that in 1989, 1990, you would have said, oh, that's bad. But now Snoop Dogg hangs out with Martha Stewart, so things have changed, right? Listen to this right here. Ooh, that feels good. And so what happens is NWA, Dr. Dre uses that as the drums for a song called Straight Outta Compton, and that break is immortalized, right? It's important. And it's also been used in it's the basis of the creation of jungle music. And he's gonna show you now. Same break, but just sped up, right? And because we have turntables, we can control the pitch. But that's another lesson. Come take my class at Ohio State and I'll show you. Now, here's something important we want to share with you. Everybody take a look at his shirt. It says, listen to Breakbeat Lou. The majority of people in here, there's probably about 3 or 4 of us that know who Breakbeat Lou is. And I just texted him and he said, oh, love you guys, right? But Breakbeat Lou in 1986 created something called Ultimate Breaks and Beats. It was a series of records that took a lot of the break beats or the records, the obscure, hard-to-find records that the hip-hop DJs were using in the 70s. He put them all on compilations. So what everybody who was into this did was bought these compilations. And not only did we buy one because we had a problem, we might have bought 2 or 3 or 4 because this is the basis of hip-hop. These came out in 1986. By 1988, the majority of hip-hop songs that were coming out were sampling these. The whole Straight Outta Compton album, almost. Kid and Play. I mean, there's so many. Pretty much everything from 88, 89 comes from a breakbeat. And that's Breakbeat Lou. And there's another series called Super Disco Breaks. And Dibbs was so kind to bring those. Same thing. What they are the obscure, hard-to-find records. Remember, there was no internet. 1986, 87, 88, 89. We don't have the internet. So this solves a lot of our problems, right? Are you getting it? Does it make sense? Right? And so we can take these and create the hip-hop that we're hearing or that we love. And so this is how hip-hop continues to grow. And anybody, raise your hand if you've ever heard of AI. Okay, right? Artificial intelligence. What does artificial intelligence do? What does AI do? Somebody help me out. Cheat. You can say that. That's if you're young in school and you kind of don't know. What? Okay, you said it looks for information, right? Scrape, I like that, scrapes. It scrapes through the internet looking for bits and pieces of information to create what? A new narrative or something new. Let me share an idea with you. Dibbs and I go to record stores and we scrape through information to create, y'all with me? That's what hip-hop is. That's why you should appreciate hip-hop. Because AI, the whole concept, the whole thought, comes from hip-hop culture. You never thought of that, did you? That's my job. I'm a professor. I'm going to make you think. Right? But consider that. What you got, Dibbs? Woo. You know this. Ever heard that before? Do-do-do. It takes 2 to make it out of sight. Lynn Collins, circa James Brown production. Dibbs, man. Does it make sense? I want to rock right now. I'm right bass and I came to get that. Right? Yeah, you grew up on that. Oh, yeah, we could do that too. So that was funk. That was funk, right? And you just say, oh, yeah, I know James Brown, right? But what about rock and roll? See, the thing about hip-hop is we search everywhere, just like you. It's not just, oh, we can only use funk or soul records. We have country breaks. Oh, okay. Ever seen this guy? Listen to this. This, what she say? There you go, big beat. Billy Squire. This is what hip hop is looking for. When we're digging in the crates, I don't care what it is. It could be calypso. If it's got something that sounds good or feels good, I'm like AI, I'm scraping. That makes sense. I can use that to add on to what I'm creating. Now, we're going to share with you a little bit of country because I wasn't lying to you. There's Elvis breaks. You got the Elvis break too? This is the Kenny Rogers break. Listen to this. That's all we need. That little bit. You guys are like, wait, let the song play. We don't need all that. We need that break. We need those drums because we hear that and we say, ooh, we can take maybe a little piece of the Honey Drippers, maybe a little bit of this Billy Squire. We can take a little piece of blah, 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 and that's what we can do. Anybody ever heard of Elvis? There you go. Hey. Did you know that Elvis had break beat, though? Had break beats? Elvis break. You guys, some of y'all are looking at me like, wait, I have that record. Anybody ever heard of Anne Murray? Of course you have, right? See, when we're looking, it doesn't matter who it is. We are really hunting. And that's part of the love. That's part of our love. This is what we do. As you see, we just keep going. I'm waiting on Haley or somebody to say, okay, cut it. Listen to how chunky those are. Ooh. And the thing is, with the advent of equipment and samplers and drum machines that came along a little later, like 88, 89, 90, now we're able to take just the kick, you know, the boom, boom, right? Or the snare, the cat, cat, or the hi-hat. And we can take that and create our own drum patterns. See how this is moving? And so now, as hip-hop heads, we're really looking for the different ideas and the different parts so that now we can create something new and we can play it out. All right. Yeah, I don't. Okay, I do have this. Peggy Lee.
99 cents.
Definitely. This is definitely a 99-cent record. And this is a gold mine for us because you hear that. That to me is like, oh, we can do something with that. Does that make sense? Dibbs, you want to say anything? I figured so Dibbs is talking right now. You hear him? And this is the best way that when he talks like this, man, E.F. Hutton, people listening. I took it back. The young people looking at me like, what? Which one is this? Oh, see, I don't have, see, so he's a little next level. He's 99 cents. I shake it. Man, okay, I don't even know this one, all right? And this is what makes Dibbs Dibbs. I'm going to shake it tomorrow. Anybody want to come with me? But I'll be there for a while. It might be 4 hours or something.
This is the narrative that happens a lot. I'll be looking through 700 crappy records, and I'll see something and I haven't seen before, that's weird.
But it happens.
And then I'll play it, and I'll hear something that, oh, I should call Brad.
There it is.
Or I should message Brad. Now, I wouldn't know how to use that. I'm not going to create anything with that. That's not what I do. I wouldn't know how to do it. I know nothing about it. But I know if I give it to him, it's going to become something else. Because you can use art to make other art. All the time, constantly.
We want to share something, one last thing with you, because you know this, but you didn't know that it was a break or it was something that was very special to the hip-hop world. And then we'll take some questions. Okay. Check this out. This song is called Apache, by Michael Viner's Incredible Bongo Band. And there's a part in here that you all know, but you just didn't know. Sounds like some of y'all knew. And I don't know. Dibbs will pick it up. Needle drop. Apache. And so we're going to share this part with you. And if you know it, I want you to do it. Let's go. Yep. Kimo sound it. Jump on it. They know it. Let's go. Now imagine, you know that because of Will Smith on The Fresh Prince, right? Now think about this. Yeah, but the masses know that because of Will Smith on The Fresh Prince. And this is what I need you to understand. Hip-hop culture is now pop culture. It is culture. And that's what you got to understand. That's why this exhibit that we have upstairs is important today. Because hip-hop culture is pop culture. It is now. Nice. So I would like to just maybe take some questions. If there's any questions, I don't even know what time it is. So, yeah, I see some hands. So Haley, you do
if
that.
you could please wait for the microphone, I will come run it to you. I saw the first one over here, and I'll hop over there.
And whoever you're, I guess anybody can answer. Yeah.
So I have a question about the timing. Like, it seems like everything is in 4/4. So you mentioned Lawrence Welk even, which makes me think of a waltz or 3/4. So I have a challenge, and I'm wondering if anyone has really played with time. There's a piece in an old Genesis song that's in 9/8 time. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do you think that's something you could work with?
I mean, we work with everything. So Genesis, Phil Collins, what's the album?
This was actually old Genesis, Peter Gabriel.
Peter Gabriel.
And
I know what she's talking about.
it's Supper's. Yeah,
You know the song?
Yeah.
It's Supper's Ready.
There's a lot of prog rock, for lack of a better
I just
term.
think you'd have fun with it.
And that's where the slowing down and the speeding up, and then you take a little bit out and you put a little bit back in, or you put it with something else.
We can chop. When we hear things like that, we can chop. We can play with the tempo. Now we have equipment that helps us time stretch, where I can change the tempo mid-song if I want to. So there's a lot of
This
things.
is really indicative. There is a very, very obscure drone metal band named Sun. Has anybody heard of this band?
Sorry.
Okay. Sun doesn't have a drummer. They have no drummer. They have 2 guitar players. That's the whole band. And their songs are 14 minutes long, and it's just, I'm not kidding. That's a Sun song. Dibbs used that song in a mix. He folded that into a set that he played this year, and it worked so great. So it can be anything. And he did that because I said, hey, you should use this.
Question.
I want to know the name of that album that you said you would pay a lot of money for.
Oh, it's not an album, it's a 45. So for those who don't know, 45 records, or 7-inch, right? It's a 7-inch. It's by a group called Manziel. It's on a label out of Cincinnati called Fraternity Records. Yeah, it is. If I lived here my whole life, but I don't have it. You know, I don't have 2 copies that I'm going to give one to my friend. I don't have 3. Oh, come on. So listen, yeah, it's called Midnight's Theme. You think you might have one? Oh, I need your number. Great question. Another one?
Miss Cynthia, and
dealing with fashion and hip hop and culture.
Well, I think that fashion has definitely um, the fashions in the culture exhibition um, are emblematic of the the culture. So. Mhm. I think they do. I think, the Versace, for instance, that I bought for the collection is all gold. It's sparkly. It's fabulous piece. Um, I've purchased other pieces for the collection, but that piece in particular is emblematic of the culture, I think.
Great questions. Keep them coming.
So I've been thinking about jazz singers. And then I went to scat singing. So is scat a predecessor to Break the Beat and all of that? Was that an early introduction to this sort of?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is.
Yes.
It absolutely is when you think.
I can hear those female.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep. Lord Buckley.
There weren't any words. There was just punctuation of sound, which is a predecessor.
There's a lot of music in the early 40s, certainly up to the early 50s, that you can hear just the staccato rhythms that are just done vocally. The voice was just used as an instrument just to make noise. That I've heard in a few songs. It's not a huge field or sample, but I've absolutely heard it.
It's definitely a part. Yeah.
It's not a thing that's completely locked into like 60s or 70s funk. You can go way back to as early as recorded sound as you want to find, and you'll hear some sort of seed of something that would later pop up. Absolutely.
And then if you think about hip hop, anybody ever heard of beatboxing? Right? So when you had people beatboxing, it was because I don't have the money to have drums. So I've got to figure out a way. You see kids on the lunch table in school making beats with pencils and their hands on the lunch table. That's a part of hip hop. It's in the tradition of scatting. It's just a part of the culture to create, even if you don't have the resources that you need properly. You're still going to create. And that's what hip hop was born out of.
Yeah, I got a question. I don't know. I feel like all four of y'all can answer. Okay, so let's say you are out and you see a certain garment that is so exotic. You're like, man, I could create with this. Or you hear a certain sound that bounces off something. You're like, man, I could make some good art into this. Let's say you have no phone, no pen, no paper, just out in the street. How do y'all, how do y'all come back to that, and how are y'all able to obtain what y'all just seen and come back and use that as art?
It's easier than ever now, I think.
So I think, yeah, he's saying, like, if you don't have anything, how do you get the sound? But we got to get the sound somehow. I think the whole idea, the point of it is, you can hear a sound in anything. And Dibbs just posted something on IG. I can't exactly remember what it was. You made a beat out of, what was it?
The EMF frequency from a microwave.
A microwave frequency.
If you could record it on a tape, just the sound.
No, well, what I'm trying to say is this, like, let's say, like, if you hear a microwave, you know what I mean? You have no,
Okay.
important thing you do. But you go back to the studio, you're like, okay, how do you capture it? Yeah, how do you capture it? Yeah,
How do you imitate? How do you capture that if you don't have it? I don't know if you can. That's why he's like, we got to capture it. We've got to capture it. Like, we need a way to capture it.
I would take the microwave into the studio.
There you go.
I have taken the microwave
Yeah.
in the studio.
That's what it is.
Why not?
Why not?
Music is organized noise, so drag it in there, put a mic on it, it'll work.
You don't even have to pay it.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
If,
Let's do it.
okay, if I was at a club and I was going to listen to hip hop tonight, would I be able to call something out and say, could you play that? Or is it just all creative all the time and it can go on forever? Or how's that work?
I'll start with this. First of all, DJs don't take requests. So you can't call out anything. For a DJ that's really doing it, he's gonna look at you and just say, yeah, I'll get to that. And because you asked for it, you probably won't get it.
This is where there's a big difference between a DJ, which is just some schmuck who's playing records at a wedding reception or something, and what he does. There is a grand canyon of difference. I don't know how you feel about this term, but turntablism, you're pro, okay. If you need a term, it's called turntablism. That's what Brad does. So there's a little bit of a difference between everybody's heard a rap song, everybody's heard a hip hop song. That's a different thing than what this is. This is a boiled down. This is kind of
niche.
Just the beats.
Yes.
Which is its own art form completely.
And what I think you're asking is, they may not know. See, the thing is, a lot of DJs today, they may not know that this is Impeach the President, and the song they're playing sampled that. See, that's a different part of what we're doing. That's why I said we're kind of nerds at this, because we care about what sounds went into making that new whoever song, right? You hear a new song on the radio, we're dissecting it in our head. My wife is like, please don't tell me what this song sample is. I just want to enjoy the song. I'm like, yeah, but they used those more bounce drums, and they could have kind of tuned it a little differently, and she doesn't want to hear that, right? And that's the difference. So a lot of DJs, when you go into the club, they may not know that. I think that's what you might have been asking. Your next question, I'm sorry, I want to get all the questions. No problem.
So, first of all, J. Rawls, I just want to tell you that the album Lone Catalyst to this day is...
Thank you. That came out in 2000.
One of the most classic albums that no one really has ever heard.
Exactly. You are exactly right. Nobody's heard it.
So, I'm curious, just how did your college experience shape that album? And after you dropped it and y'all did the tour through Europe and all that, how did you, reset your mind to say, okay, that was great, but I'm about to do something different?
I mean, so that was just reality shaped that. So the thing about that was Jay Sands and I, so he had just graduated from UC, and I was a senior at UC. So I would go to class and go do my work. Tyler, I did my homework. Do your homework. I went and I would do my work, and then he would come over at 9 p.m. to my apartment, and we would record till 3 or 4 a.m. And we did it almost every day. We just recorded, and we weren't getting paid for it. It was just fun. We just loved it. So I was hunting and digging through samples, and I was working with Dose One, or I was working with Fat John and the 5Ds, and I'm making stuff with Home Skillet, BJ Digby, and we're creating and just making music for the fun and having, and so we get blessed. We hook up with Mood, Kweli. We end up putting out a record, and then here we got a deal from a German-based label, and we put out the Lone Catalyst album, go do the tour, and we're doing everything, and it's like, great. And then I have a baby. And I have a girlfriend that I have to answer to. And so when I came back, because that was the second part of your question, when I came back, I was like, okay, I'm not getting any more calls about this music. So guess what? I had to get a job. And my job was computer programming, and I hated it. And I had to find a job that would work with the music that I loved. And so I jumped into education, got my summers off. Now summer, I can tour, right? Do you see how I kind of put it together? But that was the change from college me doing it for fun and adult me who had to still pay the bills. So I had to get a job while I did music as well. Did that answer your question?
Hey, Jay Rawls, I took your class 2 years ago at Ohio State.
Hey.
I just wanted to say, first of all, that it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and it was so interactive. And I know something that you're really passionate about is the role of education in the culture, and I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
I mean, to me, the most important thing is teaching you about the culture of hip-hop. And I hope you got some of that tonight, because I need you to understand a lot of time, and this is what I tell my students, it's not just about the rap that you hear, because you may hear it and say, and your first thought, oh, this is misogynistic, it's homophobic, it's vulgar, it's this, it's that, right? But that's just one piece, right? Anybody ever been to an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie? Right? Misogynistic, vulgar, cussing, right? It's one piece. It's not the entire
Anybody ever been to a movie?
Period, right? Does that make sense? And so I always try to make sure that you understand that hip-hop is an entire culture. There's so much more to it than just what you see on TV or just what the machine is what I call it, but like what the industry allows you to see. Because there's so much more when you dig beneath the surface. And that's what I hope I gave to you all. And I hope it got you excited to look for other things, not just hear what's on the new TikTok song, right? But to like go and research and find, oh, who is MF Doom? Who's Jay Dilla? Who's Gel? Who's some of these different artists? That's the goal.
And then go to the record store.
And buy it and shake it.
I think we had two. Dad, you raised your hand?
Hi, I've always enjoyed hip hop and the whole culture of it, but I don't know a thing, including like you go to the record store and you're looking at albums, 45s and whatnot. How do you find? I mean, you have to hear it. You have to hear the whole thing to find that little.
They hear it.
At Shake It now, you have booths that you play every.
There are listening stations. Some people bring in their own little portable things. The idea of a complete shot in the dark of you're just going to start throwing stuff on one after another, that doesn't happen a whole lot. Usually somebody who's spending the time to look through stuff, you're going to look for like just words or the late, again, those indicators, something to tip you off that like this might be worth 5 seconds of my time.
Yeah, we could tell you how the process.
So
Dibbs.
For a store, you take a portable so you can jump through the records. But when you're staring at the vinyl, after years of doing it, you can look at the vinyl and see where the drums are or see where the bass line is because it looks different than where the vocals are.
I was wondering, how can you place the
He knows.
Because
he
when,
knows
because
exactly
when I look
what
at
it
it, I
is.
can see where it starts.
Yeah.
You can see in the grooves of a
drop it right
record
there.
where a break might
We can see the grooves. It changes, and you can
remember,
see.
You remember the TV show That's Incredible, like in the late 70s, early 80s? So there was a whole episode where a guy would identify songs by looking at the vinyl. And when I saw that, I'm like, I wonder if I could do that. So a few years later, when I started buying records and looking for breaks, that was the idea. And eventually I identified that's a break, that's a bass line, those are vocals only. And so if I don't have a portable, if I buy 20 records, 15 of them will have what I need, and 5 of them, maybe not, but there's probably something there. But you can look and see the break.
Okay,
And that,
you
and
were staring at, that was my second question.
yes.
Is how do you know where to place the needle?
And that's the secondary part of it. But if you're just looking at a cover, when we're digging, first of all, we either know the artist or we can look and we know the label or we can see The year is one of the most important things. What year did it come out? Or we can look and see who played what instrument on what.
Side note, 71 is the best year.
71, I'm a 72, 73, but
71's the best year.
I mean, but that's part of it. Like we after doing it for 30-something years, like you start to just know what you're looking for.
And one other silly question is, why do you do the back and forth? It's just to repeat and repeat, or what is going on with the actual?
Why do you do that?
Think of it as someone strumming a guitar.
The instrument, yeah. We look at this as an instrument.
Okay, so and it's playing in both directions. So when you're playing it backwards, it's playing and then.
If you're going across the strings forward and backwards, and then any stutter or pull or drag or tear makes it sound different.
Okay, and then are you making albums of your creations?
Yes.
About 59 of them.
You've got 59.
He's at
Easily.
least.
Probably more, but yeah, 59 easily.
I don't know how many albums I have out. No clue.
7.
A lot.
And we have time for one more question. Sol, was you? Okay.
Hi, how y'all doing?
How you doing?
It's nice to meet y'all. You mentioned earlier about creating some art from more art. So I was curious, I have 2 questions, but this first one is, how have you applied turntablism, if I could use that term, in other aspects of your life? Because learning one discipline, you can apply it to other things in your life, like family or your work or relationships. How does it amplify other parts of your life?
So for me, it's like digging in the crates, just and hip hop in general, which is creating something from nothing, is the story of my life. Because part of it is I am an assistant professor of hip hop. Okay, let me say that. Y'all didn't hear me. I'm an assistant professor of hip hop. That didn't exist a year ago. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so what hip hop is all about is taking something that is not there and pushing forward. It doesn't matter if it doesn't exist. I don't stop for anybody. You can ask any of the Emilys, you can ask Haley, you can ask Cynthia, Susan. Anybody here at this museum understands how that works. I'm hip hop, and that's what we do. That's what Dibbs does. You can't tell us no for an answer. We just don't take that, and that comes from doing this, right? You can't make a song from a microwave frequency. You can't do that. So he did it. Make sense?
It does. So, to go with what you said.
Yeah.
So, breaks and beats and turntablism, and you go so far with it, and then you want to keep pushing forward, because the whole point of hip-hop was to keep going forward. If we sit still, everyone sounds the same. So the next thing I did, like when we were talking about the microwave, was I started taking children's toys and rewiring them. It's called circuit bending, which I learned from that dude right there. Raise your hand.
Hey.
He literally taught me how to circuit bend. And so you take a speak and spell and turn it into this beast of a synth or a drum machine. So now I'm getting drums from kids' toys that are at thrift stores and throwaways. But that was what we were supposed to do with hip-hop. If you sit still, everyone's the same and it becomes dead and dull. You push forward. So to answer that, that's one thing I did to push forward. And then like the field recording, microwaves, EMF frequencies, anything that we can pull the sound from can be put on the turntable now because of the technology. So now I can scratch the speak and spell or the microwave thing. Then you can manipulate it on the turntable and sample it from there. Is that?
Yeah, that answers.
Okay.
And then my second question is, because are y'all most interested in Nas DJ Premier or Pete Rock and Common's album coming out?
I mean, both. I'm not going to. You talking about classic people making new music. Like, yeah, I want to hear it all. All of it.
Good answer.
Haley, is that it?
I think so. Thank you all so much for coming out.
Thank you all.